Доброго дня.
Good afternoon, this is Media Center Ukraine, Odessa. We continue for today, and now we're going to have a panel discussion. How developers in Odessa work after a year of full-scale war. We have a lot of guests here. Oleksandr Avdeev, head of the Department of State Architectural and Construction Control of the Odessa City Council; Vasylis Bumburas, executive director of the construction company Gefest; Oleg Levkovskyi, head of Marketing and Advertising Department of Odecom Development; Hanna Shevchenko, deputy head of the branch of Odessa Regional Administration of JSC Oschadbank for retail business; and Denis Drevnitsky, head of Odessa Regional Office of Oschadbank. So the first question, how developers manage to find funds to continue their works. The floor is to Vasylis Bumburas. Good afternoon to everyone. The war shows that everything's possible if you want to. We've never stopped in our company with constructions. Despite the objective challenges we have been facing, we continue construction, and we have finalized around 1,500 apartments for the last year. And I can say that everything's possible if you want to. My family and I and Gefest company are involved in approximating our victory, and we believe that soon we will just remember the war as a bad dream. Thank you. Mr. Oleksandr Zlochevskyi, co-founder of the company Akvarel. And I would like to say that with the beginning of the full-scale war, our employees were involved in supplying different slabs, blocks to strengthen defense of our city. And if you allow, I would like to continue in the Russian language. Then after that, we returned to our activities. Two residential complexes are fully ready for accommodation, and we continue construction with other complexes. Also, the speed is not as it used to be before the war, because of the Russia's attack on the critical infrastructure facilities. We have issues with power supply, but we have never stopped our work. Mr. Levkovskyi. Good afternoon to everyone. With the beginning of the full-scale invasion of the Russian Federation, we anyway continued our work. Last year, 100,000 square meters were finalized at two complexes, and this year we are also planning to finalize work at one more complex, around 40,000 square meters. It is difficult, but we continue our work. For our customers to have their apartments, and we understand that this year the prices for square meter in hryvnias will continue increasing due to the fact that the prices have increased for metal. There is a lack of workforce, labor force on the market, because a lot of men have joined the Ukrainian military to defend our country. And I would like to wish all our colleagues to unite our efforts to continue our work, because our industry is the baseline for the budget for the whole country. Mr. Avdeev, as for the new draft law that was voted and signed by the president, and there was a briefing with the involvement of Ms. Bumburas, where we discussed the draft law as for the right of inspection institutions. What can you tell about this draft law? Before that, I would like to start my speech that the Department of State Architectural and Construction Control does not allow to construction. We have a lot of land plots, and we're always open for new cooperation. We are open to communicate with the developers and those who file complaints. And I would like to emphasize that we also are in close cooperation with the development. As for draft law 5655, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that the draft law has not been signed by the president yet. Yes, the period for veto has expired, but anyway, we hope that there will be some amendments to the draft law, because as it is now, it is just a lobby of constructions. Actually, I was surprised because Mr. Bumburas said that he did not support the draft law. Perhaps they have different opinion about that. And but this is not only my opinion, because all big cities, including Kyiv, Kharkiv, Dnipropetrovsk, have been discussing the draft law. But I believe that the function of the State Architectural and Construction Control will be just excluded by the new law. So we will be we'll have just the development control using the funds of the construction companies, because there will be no centralized control, and registrators and notaries will register their permission documents for the start and the end of the work. We remember that there was the reform of the registration service started in 2014, and we fight with that service till 2017, 2018, when the situation changed every day because of the activities of that service, because a registrar somewhere in Donetsk and Luhansk Oblast made decision to deprive you of your holding. And you had to address the court to have your company back. And we understand that the court proceedings, the expertise requires money and time. And I can say the same about Law 5655. That's it on my side, from my side. As for the new rules for generators, shelters, and have they been actively implemented or not? No, these are different topics, 5655 and the new standards. No, it's just a different question. So we have the rules that we inherited from the Soviet times, and these rules have not been approved by anything, because we still need the legal expertise of the Ministry of Justice. But that rules have not been updated or checked, and because of the full-scale war, we have accepted new rules, adopted new rules, and the new designs should be in line with the new standards. And of course, if the construction is ongoing, the permissions will be based on the previous rules. The State Emergency Service already addressed us with some questions, and we explained that those projects that were finalized before the new rules were adopted, they should not follow the new standards, new rules, but new designs, new projects shall be based on the new construction rules. After developing the project documentation, the project should undergo the obligatory state inspection and should be signed by 10 different experts in different areas. Mr. Zlochevskyi, Mr. Bumburas, would you like to add something about the new state construction regulations, about the shelters in the new construction sites? Sometimes we change something before the laws. Our company, Gefest, our and other constructors, construction companies understand now that the parking lots in the basement of our houses have been turned into bomb shelters. And that's great that parking lots were designed properly. And now they can be used as bomb shelters. As for generators, generators were kind of a typical obligation of constructors. And before the war, generators worked like several hours a year. And we understand all construction, all companies, all developers should update our reserve generators to the industrial ones. And I would like to say once more that we think before the law. And most of us think about the new conditions, because we respond quicker to the changes than laws. Mr. Zlochevskyi, as for generators, yes, it has been properly mentioned that there is a bomb shelter, namely a basement parking lots or basements that can be used as bomb shelters. But so we have some conditions. As for generators, we have already supplied generators with the proper capacity to ensure heating, power supply, water supply, to ensure operations of the lifts, and for the guards to be able to work. In one of the residential complexes, we have special batteries before the war, and for the lift to be still operative. But now, with the outages, the whole system stopped operating, and we had to change everything. The same can be said about generators. We used to have generators that we used like 1 hour or 2 hours per year because there were no outages. But we would have had to maintain these generators to avoid issues in the future. Now I would like have the questions about Oschadbank, about crediting developing companies. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting us to this panel discussion. Yes, unfortunately, a lot of commercial banks are very careful about financing development companies. So, of course, they take into consideration the risks that we have not only in our region but in the whole country. The head of the National Bank of Ukraine, Mr. Pyshny, also paid attention to that, and he now says that the foreign banks they eagerly invested into Ukraine, but as soon as they faced the problems because of the war, they stopped their crediting activities. We are a state bank, a public bank, and that's why our first objective is to support economy through financing and through financing programs of retail business, of SMEs, And now we have program 597, which not only development companies, but small size and medium size companies are aware of. And our first task is to finance the commercial sector, including development companies, in the framework of our policies. In order to create jobs, to support economy, for the companies to be able to pay taxes, and for the blood system of our country never to stop. Can you share statistics how many credits have been provided by Oschadbank in Odesa Oblast for development companies? These are significant numbers, around billion or billion and a half hryvnias for the last year. And can you compare this to the previous period, or as it was 2 years ago? We can speak that there is a decrease, of course. Ms. Shevchenko, can you share details about crediting company of your bank to the servicemen, to the military? Yes. During the war, we support natural entities with purchasing their accommodation. Now we are the part of the mortgage campaign Year Osela that started in October last year. We have provided more than 700 loans for the general amount of 1 billion hryvnias within this program, and the numbers are quite impressive. As for Oschadbank, we have issued more than 500 loans, to the amount of more than 700 million hryvnias. This is for the whole of Ukraine. Odesa is not as active as Kyiv, but we have some success here as well. We have issued 19 loans to the amount of 27 million hryvnias, and 16 loans were issued, among them by Oschadbank. So the numbers are not that big, but we still believe that this is our achievement, because there were more than 1,000 applications that we received through the app. And we are going to respond to the most of them as soon as we have possibility. But I would like to remind this is not only for the military. The program Year Osela, so the accommodation program, ensures issuing loans to such important groups as the military, as defense sector, the employees from the medication area, and teachers as well. But of course, most applications are of the military, because our servicemen need this. And now they have an opportunity to get these loans to have new houses, because their salaries were increased last year. So we issue loans for around 80% of the market within the Year accommodation program. But I believe that the amount is not that big for the year. But this is last year, starting from October, like several months. But I believe that the amount is not that big. I would like to say that the program officially started in October, but it became active at the end of December, because there were some issues that should be settled, and also with relation in particular for the methodology of public property fund, etc. That's why the program de facto is operative since the end of December last year. We have the questions from our journalists. Can you hear me? Rostislav Baklazenko, Dumskaya.net. I have a question to our developers. What does a development company need now during the war to guarantee that the construction object will be finalized? Perhaps your companies require some support from the state, or what is needed now to construct the whole house from the scratch within the deadline and the deadlines envisaged. Mr. Zlochevskyi, Mr. Bumburas. This is a good question. Thank you. In any case, support is always good, especially under the current condition when the prices for construction materials have increased. And we have difficulties with our contractors, with our suppliers. Some of them worked with Russia, others are now on the occupied territories or in a combat zone. As for support that we might get, first of all, we need support with the documents for our governmental structures to be more open to settle the issues. As for financing, there were some programs for the people who left the territories near the front line or who have lost their houses. Any help that we can get from commercial organizations or the state or the foreign companies is needed. But the question is, should we apply for that support? Because that is not unclear. Mr. Levkovskyi. I would like to make an example of the latest news. For example, VAT for drones was cancelled, but we also need some support, not to hinder our activities, first of all. So we need support with the documentation. And also we need support with handing over of the object, because very often it takes a lot of time for the objects to be handed over, especially when we speak about the objects of the fifth category, SS3. Yes, you're right, SS3 category. So this is the help that we would like to get from the state. I believe, and I think that my colleagues will support me, that we need a law that will regulate the materials which are monopolized by the Ukrainian market. For example, we produce metal today. The duty on the import of metal, the duties are very high, and that's why we stopped our activities, and that's why we could expect at least 10% increase in prices for metal. And actually, or even 15%, we cannot predict such increases in prices. And there is no financial model that will be able us to explain such risks for our customers, or we need to increase the prices for 1 square meter. And so there are high duties on metal. The same situation with the cement. For example, the Odesa cement factory has been closed recently, and there is only one factory left in Ukraine that also has increased prices for cement. There is also a 15% increase, and the same could be said about glass, about other materials. The state does not ensure any protection of our activities. So we have like only option to conclude the contract with those companies or not to build at all. So I believe that there are committees which are responsible for the monopoly. And of course, they are also responsible for the materials mentioned. And I believe that the state, at the level of the office of the president, should solve the issue as soon as possible. And I believe that my colleagues here will support me with this. Unian, the floor is yours. And then I will give floor to Suspilna. Unian. How many unfinished objects there are in the city? We have here only the representatives of the development companies that continue their construction. So we have some statistics, and I can share some facts with you because I'm a public official. If we compare 2022 and the start and the 2022, we can say the following. And the Department of State Architectural and Construction Control used to register 2,000–3,000 of permissions per year for the start or finalization of the construction work. So it was 2,500 in general. And now we have the twofold decrease in the amount of permissions that we register per year. And now we have the full-scale aggression of the Russian Federation that started at the end of February last year. There were 2 months of the last year when the construction work was ongoing. So we can see that last year we had a twofold decrease in the amount of permissions. We have now in Odessa around 80 construction sites in our city. I don't have 100% information about how many of them are still operative because the situation changes every day. Why is it so? Because they are waiting for the materials they ordered and that they couldn't find in Ukraine anymore. So that's why they had to order them from other countries, and logistics delivery take time. So if they don't have materials, they can't continue their work. We have now a very difficult situation with the power supply. That's why one day the construction site operates, the other days the activities are stopped there. So I cannot say that, for example, half of the construction sites are closed. But we have some facts for 2022 when specific companies managed to finalize their work and to hand over their objects for their exploitation. And last year, this year, that was Prostranstvo company, Avdeev Chernomorsky residential complex. And now I'm speaking about objects SS1, SS2. I cannot share information about SS3 because the inspection for architectural control registers documents there. There is one more company, Gefest Calypso complex. And if I'm not mistaken, one more complex in the central part of the city, also by the Gefest company. These companies managed to hand over their objects in 2022. Our department has no other information about other companies last year. Maybe representatives of the companies can add something, because perhaps they know about SS3 category as well. And it's good that we have 80 construction sites now, but some of them has stopped operations. Perhaps you have this information. As for our company, we have been finalizing works with 2 objects, and there were problems with the uploading documents because there were changes in the electronic system, DIA. Oh, sorry for forgetting this. So it took time to upload documents to that application, to that software. So the constructions are finalized, but we'll still wait for the documents to be finalized. The categories SS2, SS3. We have also received permission to construct 1 new residential complex, Akvarel 10, in Kotovskovo district in Odesa. Last year, apart from the objects that have been already mentioned, we also handed over 3 more objects in Kiev, 3 more facilities. And I do remember that we had problems with also uploading the documents to the system. We had to make around 5-6 attempts, so there was a little delay, but anyway, we managed to hand over those facilities also in Kiev. I have 1 more question. How can the UNESCO heritage influence your activities? Avdeev does not construct anything in the city. That's why I'm not influenced. I have no impact either by UNESCO or construction control. At least we need to define the borders of the UNESCO heritage zone. Where is the borderline? Do we know this? It is along Zhukovskого Street. But perhaps you can share this information. I'm the head of the Department of State Architectural and Construction Control. And perhaps I need to explain what is meant by this control. We register permissions for the start and end of the construction work. We also are responsible for on-site control. When it comes to UNESCO, we have the architectural department, which is more responsible for the issue. And we also have 1 more department, which is responsible for materials used for the construction. But anyway, Odesa was included in UNESCO. And we have a special zone for this. But anyway, we need to have the information from UNESCO what we should do with that territory. So now we have only information that we have received the status, but we don't have any other information. So now we need to get information from UNESCO of what we should do under the new status. And nowadays, there are no global construction activities in the central area that received the UNESCO status. Moreover, UNESCO envisages some responsibilities for our department and for Odesa residents. For example, that there should be no plastic windows in houses. That the houses should be maintained, and but people are used to the fact that the city authorities should be responsible for everything. But the Odesa residents are also responsible for the houses they live in. That's why we should first receive the information from UNESCO of what we should do for that area, and after that we can develop a roadmap for our development companies. How long can you wait for the information from UNESCO? but we should receive the information. No, I don't know. In Ukraine, we have one more city which also has the UNESCO status. This is Lviv. They received the status in 2008. And perhaps you can add some information that you like. But anyway, I have one more question to you. Are people still eager to buy apartments, to buy flats? Now we learned about the crediting campaign by Oschadbank, but there are the people who don't want to get loan to buy the accommodation, or they use cash, or they just follow the conditions, the regulations of the construction companies. We have IDPs. And of course, we should speak about the price. And we have IDPs that want to buy a flat with at least minimum renovation. And depending on the price, depending on the readiness of the flat, we have different cases. But I have the statistics of our company. It was quite difficult for us. So we don't offer renovation for flats in our houses. So people are not ready to invest in such flats, in such apartments. Also, some people fled Odesa, and that had a negative impact on the sales. That's why our company has rectified the prices. We have changed our offer, and that has improved the situation a bit, so increasing our sales. So now we should think about the product which is needed on the market, including the flats with the renovation. As for our company, of course, we have also felt the changes on the market. The demand for flats has increased by 50% last year. This year, we can see the increase in demand thanks to our marketing campaign. And also, the structure of the demand for housing has changed. A lot of people started buying flats for themselves because we have now a lot of IDPs in our city. There is a decrease in demand for investing in housing just to preserve money. So the structure has changed. We were quite successful last year. That's why we continue our construction work. We should also fulfill our obligations for our investors. So we have different campaigns, promotion campaigns. We offer special prices. We also offer installment plan for payment. And we have a question from Suspilne. I'm Olena from Suspilne, and I have a question to Oleksandr Avdeev, but this can be also redirected to other representatives. The question is because of the earthquake in Turkey, and how can we learn about the resilience of our housing in such cases? We should start from the fact that Odessa is in the seismic zone, and we have special regulations for this. When the design is developed, the designer should also take this into consideration. So it's for 8 or 7 class earthquake. So we also take this into consideration. The project also should undergo the state expertise for a specific seismic zone. Due to the fact that Odessa is in the seismic zone, then all classes of housing, SS1, SS2, should be checked against this factor. For example, I live in a house. How can I check if this house fits a earthquake? Of perhaps Akvarel. We can ask the representative of the company. So, where could people address to check their house? So we understand that it's 7 grade for Odessa. So the regulations are for 7 magnitude quake. And now the question is who should monitor the fulfillment of the regulation? We have the special technical inspection that should control that the development company uses the materials as envisaged by the project plan. We have the last question from the journalist who is not here today, and we will stop here. So I would like to read her question as it is. Who is the first from the development companies who are present here will start constructing social housing? And I can say that we don't understand the social housing program that is offered. So we are ready to construct social housing, but we should be aware of the conditions. If I'm not mistaken, the negotiations started in summer, and I was involved in those negotiations, but the conditions offered were very difficult to implement. The situation is constantly changing, and now we know that the prices for metal and other materials keep increasing. There are difficulties with the supply of materials, and there are difficulties with the prices because there is threefold increase. And it is also unclear what is offered by the state. So we should study in details the programs offered. If I'm not mistaken, in summer there was a round table with development companies to discuss the issue. And I don't know if there were representatives of the inspection institutions, but most developers who are interested in constructing social housing were there. As for our company, we are ready, but we are ready to build basing on the principle of equal partnership between the state and business. So we should support each other, and this is the only way how we can support our IDPs and business and the state. Thank you. Mr. Bumburas, would you like to add something? Yes, I remember the meeting. We were there. Gefest cannot agree with the offered conditions because I would like to say as it is, perhaps it would sound quite rude, but you will offer to use the scheme only if you are ready to be involved in some fraudulent activities. So I cannot undertake the obligation to construct something where there is no enough money. So this means that I need to receive advanced payments to start construction or to stop construction, and this is not our practice. Secondly, the projects that were shown to us are impossible to calculate. And the talks which we have now, it's just kind of a fantasy. So the state had to show something. They did this, but I don't think that everyone will agree to do this because it is hard to calculate. So as that was the problem with the quality of the project, or what was the problem? There are different projects. For example, there are some beautiful pictures which are also the part of the design, and or there can be some architecture which are also the part of the project. When you calculate the price and especially when it comes to the public objects, there will be a lot of inspections, and you need to prepare the documents precisely stating the amount of material and the size of the facility. And there is no such information. That's why I don't understand how we can discuss this. There was some general information provided about facilities that are offered by the state. We understand that there should be around 40 floors, and there was some basic information for even amateur engineer. Of course, we need to discuss the issue, but we need to discuss the issue when there are all details there. Thank you very much. I would like to thank all those who were present here today. I hope that everyone could take floor to share the information they wanted. The journalists are here with us, and you will be able to communicate with our guests after the round table, after the panel discussion. So that was the panel discussion with the representatives of the development industry. We had the representative of the head of the State Architectural and Construction Control Department, and also with Oschadbank. Stay tuned and see you later.